Most of us Christians, we don't know the discipline to remain where Jesus has planted us. That's why most of us, we are still chasing after blessing. When our blessing went to look for us in the location where God had planted us. When Jesus is looking to fellowship with you, he will not wander around looking for you in other places, although he knows that you went somewhere because he's God. But you always go to a place where he have deployed you. Ask Adam, as he was hiding in the garden, God did not go to a place where Adam was hiding, and yet he was fully aware that Adam was hiding. But he looked where he left him and he asked the question, Adam, where art thou? If you want to see the deep, mighty blessing of God as a Christian, you are to master what? The discipline to remain where he has planted you. The problem with our generation, we follow the pattern of the world, especially Christian. Everyone who wants to be great, who wants to prosper, they run to the city. God does not work that way. Elijah did not go to the market to receive meat. He was in the wilderness, and yet God made a provision for him to eat meat through ravens. What do we need as Christians? The discipline to be synchronized to God's process and voice. The day when Christians can master this art of following God, synchronizing to the pattern of God, Christianity will be a powerful movement under the sun. Not religion, because Jesus did not die to bring religion. He came to restore us relationship and love fellowship. We are religious in conduct, hence we fail to reach the maximum power of God. We fail to contact what? God's spirit, because Christians of my generation, by conduct, we are religious. Knowing the letter without the intimation of the spirit does not authenticate your position before God. Tell your neighbor, knowing the letter without the intimation of the spirit does not authenticate your positioning before God. We read the Bible in ignorance because we are not enlightened. Knowing information about Jesus, even the mysteries behind the events of the scripture, does not change your relationship with Jesus. The standard of the modern age salvation is in error. Tell your neighbor, the standard of the modern age salvation is in error. We confess him with our mouth, but we deny him in action. We confess to have relationship with Jesus, the Messiah. However, our day-to-day life contradict what we have spoken. We are faith people by declaration, by what we write, by what we say, by how we dress, but in action, we have rebelled against his kingdom. That's why he said, in the end time, I will say to them, get away from me, I do not know you, because you break God's law. Talking about Jesus, preaching about it, even writing about it, associating with his organization does not necessarily make you his child. Salvation is total commitment, obedience, and ultimate yielding to his purpose. We are good in speech, but we are not good in execution. Tell your neighbor, we are good in speech, but we are not good in execution. Hence, Jesus has become silent in our generation. The name Jesus is spoken in every city, in every household, but the manifestation is very scarce. Everyone can write his name, everyone can pray to him, but the fruits testify that he have not heard our prayer. Jesus said, when you pray in my name, whatever you ask, I will do for you. But Christians in my generation, they are praying, and yet they do not hear from God. When Jesus has made what? A legal promise, constitution, that he will answer. Why is he not answering? Because our mouth does not agree with our hearts. Our hearts are at rebellion to God. We say what we do not mean. We confess him consistently without break, but in practice we have rebelled against God. He asked the question, if you've got two servants or sons and you say to one, go, and they refuse, and later they go, and the other one that you say to, go, and they say, yes, I will go, but they do not go, which one is a faithful one? The standard of the modern salvation is in error. We cannot taste God until we launch beyond men's speech. We will not meet Jesus until our prayers, they stem from where? A place little bit deeper than emotion and self-centeredness. Most of us here, we need situation to motivate us to seek God and to pray. That's why God does not come to our rescue when we truly need him, because Jesus is a God of relationship. Yeah? Someone came and said, Lord, please, I'm sick. He said, this food is for sons and daughters, it's not for dogs. What was Jesus talking about? He was talking about relationship. For 1,000 years, men may pray to God without a divine relationship with God. He will never speak back. is a God of what? Relationship. When Sodom and Gomorrah was burning with sulfur, I believed were people that were praying to God. He never listened because there was no relationship. That's why it's a foolish thing for someone to live in sin, and 1 hour, 2 minutes before they die, they say they go to God and say, I'm sorry. You cannot enter heaven by accident. How you live your life now, while you have time on your side, will determine if you are going to heaven or you are going to hell. There's no this thing of saying before the spirit come out, God, I'm sorry. It does not happen. It's just heathens that are trying to make people comfortable with sin. It's not such. Yeah? Are you listening? There's no such. You've been killing people, destroying families, fornicating, stealing. 2 minutes before you die. Oh God, there's no time for that. Salvation is relationship, not bribery. God paid attention to the prayer and petition of one man, Abraham, because what? There was a relationship. When Abraham prayed, God listened to him. It's a God of relationship. When God was about to destroy Israel, Moses prayed and God repented. That's what the Bible said. And he preserved them. They were priests in the camps of what? Of Israel, who knew scriptures. Modern Moses, it is not scriptures that brings you to God. It's obeying those scriptures that make God to pay attention to you. Tell your neighbor, it's not the knowledge of scriptures that push you to God, but rather submission to those scriptures that make God to pay attention. He testified about Job because he saw what? Not confession. He saw what? Consistency in obedience. Without obedience, we cannot attract God's attention. We cannot attract God's presence. But in the modern generation, current church, we are taught confession without practice. That's why the world is upside down. God is not moved by speech. He have heard all the wisdom. You are too small. Tell your neighbor, you are too small. Jesus have heard all the wisdom. Your speech before God quoting scripture, you are not moving him. There were men like Solomon that came before you. God is not moved. What is it that moves God? Obedience. To be a doer of the word. The day when Christians start to practice what they confess, what they read, there will be a manifestation of power that the world have never seen. You want power? You want to hear from God? The question is, which kind of Christian are you? Are you the one that hears and walks away? Or are you the one that hears and you execute? Why did God favor David above Saul? Because David was a doer of the word. The scripture for today, James chapter 1, verse 22. Read it when you get time. Until we become doers of the word, the Bible we read, we have no business with God. Tell your neighbor, until we become doers of the word, the Bible we read, we have no business with God. We will continue to become professional Christians. You even know Hebrew, Greek, Arabic to interpret the Bible, but the Bible does not live in you. Don't be scared and moved by people who know Hebrew, Arabic. It's a good thing. Everyone should do that. But if the Bible does not live in you, it makes no difference. You are just an encyclopedia that is busy sailing to hell. Are you listening? Without what? Obedience, practicing, executing the word of God. You are what? An encyclopedia that is busy sailing to hell. Makes no difference. And unfortunately, in my generation, there is so many people who have knowledge about God. They will even tell you who was busy writing notes when God said, "Let us make men in our own image." They will tell you who was writing notes, but the Bible does not live in them. That's why there's no manifestation. Why are we having fights? In my generation, pastors calling prophets Satanists, demons. They went to buy power. Why are we seeing this? Because others, they have understood God intellectually, but not by His Spirit. When they fail to manifest God, that they talk about intellectually, they fight those that can manifest. Only one verse that you practice will draw you closer to God. Start with one. One verse that you follow consistently. Walls of resistance, failure will collapse just because of one verse. How much more when you obey the whole Bible?